Hello, my name is Kristen and this is Kristen Craves Books. So this is actually my 5th year doing this mid-year book freakout tag. I have done it every year, I believe, since I started my blog in 2017, but it's really fun to be doing it on video this year, and I love reading everybody's posts and watching everybody's videos. They're just such fun questions, and it's a great way to reflect on my reading year. So I had a good time going through all the books I've read so far in 2021 and trying to pick a book for each of these questions. I was not successful in that. I have picked more than one book for most of these questions. So we'll get right to it because I think this might be a long video. The first question is a hard one because it is the best book that you've read so far in 2021. And there were a lot that I could have chosen, but I really did want to settle on one, and I ultimately ended on Piranesi by Susanna Clarke. I feel like I've talked about this book a lot. If you've watched my videos, you'll know how much I love this book. And what really makes it stand out for me is just how original it is. I have never read anything quite like it. It's a book that you can't even describe to people. If I tell somebody to read this, I don't even know where to begin, because it's best to just trust me on this one and pick it up and experience it for yourself. The writing is really beautiful. Piranesi is our main character, and we're getting his diary entries as he's living in this mansion that has the ocean in it, and there's lots of creatures. It's just very, very bizarre, but very beautiful. And it's a shorter book, so if you've been wanting to read something by Susanna Clarke, this is a good one to start with. The next question is the best sequel you've read so far in 2021. And normally when I come to this question, I struggle because I've only read one sequel or two and didn't love either of them. But I have read a few sequels this year because I've really been trying to focus on series. So I have 3 that I want to share with you today. And the first one is Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. And this is the 3rd book in this series. I think it's called the Friend Zone series. I actually never read the first one, but I heard mixed things about it, so I just never picked it up. But the second one, The Happy Ever After Playlist, was one of my favorite books of last year. And this one is the 3rd one, Life's Too Short. And I think it's actually my favorite in this series. What's really great about Jimenez is that she tackles some heavier topics in her romance. This one follows Vanessa, whose sister has passed away from a genetic illness that her mother also had. So Vanessa's not sure if she also carries the gene, and she's a travel blogger, she's a YouTuber, and she decides that she's just gonna live her life. She doesn't want to know if she has the gene, and whatever happens is gonna happen. Then her other sister leaves her baby on Vanessa's doorstep, so she's now grounded, she can't travel anymore. She's taking care of this baby. And then her next door neighbor, I think it's Josh, is that his name, or is that from one of the other ones? Oh, Adrian, way off. And then Adrian knocks on her door because the baby's crying, and a romance stems from there, but it's really, really well done, and I just loved it. Then another one that I don't own, but I feel like everybody's gonna have the same answer to this question, is Act Your Age, Eve Brown by Talia Hibbert. That is the 3rd book in the Brown Sisters series, and that is my favorite, I think, because I relate to Eve the most. I think the great thing about these books is that you'll relate to either Chloe, Danny, or Eve. And there was just something about Eve that I connected with. And I love the love interest. I thought they had great banter, some great, like, it's very slight hate to love in this. And I loved the setting of the B&B. And it's very, very steamy. There's one scene that really caught me off guard and was actually kind of hilarious. So great book. And I'm sad that series is over, but it ended on a great conclusion. And then the next one is actually one that is the 3rd book in a series as well, so we're on a trend here, and it's also my favorite book in the series. So all 3 of my favorite sequels of the year were also 3rd books in the series and my favorite book in their series, so that's kind of fun and interesting. And this one follows Waylon, who is a senior in high school, the same high school that the characters from the previous 2 novels go to, and they do make appearances in here, which is really fun. We get some closure on their stories as well. But Raylan is a big fan of a show that's similar to RuPaul's Drag Race, and he decides that maybe he's into drag himself, and he kind of dips his toe into that. But what's really great is his relationship with his family. He has a twin sister, and he's really close to his sister's girlfriend, Hannah. And a video of Wayland, he does like an audition tape for this show, and that video gets out, and then the people in his school nominate him for prom queen as a joke, but he decides that he's going to run for real, and it goes on from there. The love story in here is really sweet and believable. I loved their chemistry, the family aspect, the found family in here. He becomes friends with the characters from the first 2 books. It's just really, really sweet. My favorite book in the series, and it's stunning. Then the next question is new releases that you haven't read yet, but you want to read, and there's so many of those. The one that comes to mind is Mirror Season by Anna Marie McLemore. You'll see another one of their books in this tag because I just loved it so much. And Wild Beauty is one of my favorite books. I always mean to read more from them, so I would love to read the Mirror Season. Another one is The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. I really liked, what was that one by them that I read? River of Teeth. So interesting, and I think they come out with new books at the time and I keep meaning to pick them up. But Echo Wife follows a clone, like an AI. I'm really into that kind of sci-fi, so I really think I'm gonna love that one. And then one that I actually own, Ace of Spades. Everybody has been raving about this lately. I wanted to pick this up as soon as I got it, but I haven't yet, so I really want to make this one a priority. It's Dark Academia. That's all I need to know. And then the follow-up question to that is your most anticipated releases for the second half of the year. Again, so many. I have 4, but there are so many more than that. That's why I do my monthly most anticipated videos, because there's so many that I'm excited about. But the first one is obviously Redemptor. I talk about Ray Bear by Jordan Afreco constantly. I love that book so much. It really surprised me. And the sequel comes out in August, and I have a countdown on my phone. I cannot wait for that. The next one is The Heart Principle by Helen Huang. The Bride Test is probably my favorite romance ever. That's the second book in the Kiss Quotient series, and in that book there is a character, Quan. He's like a side character, and The Heart Principle is his story, and I adore him so much. I feel like I've been waiting for The Heart Principle for years. I am so excited for that to come out. And then we have the Book of Magic by Alice Hoffman. This is the 4th book in the Practical Magic series, but it's technically the first sequel. 2 of the books have been prequels. Then we had Practical Magic, and now we're getting a sequel, which I think is really interesting because Practical Magic really wrapped up in the end, so I'm curious to see where the story goes. I cannot wait for that. A perfect October read. And then the last one is Steel Striker by Mary Lou. A lot like Ray Bear, I absolutely loved Sky Hunter when I read it last year, and I was surprised. I have always gone along with Mary Lou's writing, but something about Sky Hunter was different and just hit me different, and I became so connected to it. Ultimate found family trope there, and I'm excited to visit these characters again in Steel Striker. And then the next question is your biggest disappointment, and I have a few, not too many, and I'm only going to talk about one because it's my most recent disappointment, and it's the one that really bothers me the most, and that is The Maidens by Alex Michaelides. And there's so much marketing behind this book, and I just don't understand why. Sure, it's dark academia, but even that part wasn't interesting enough to me. It's a fast-paced read. I listened to the audiobook in less than 24 hours. You can get through it really, really quickly. But the twists were obvious. It's for a story about the maidens. The actual maidens themselves were a very small part of the book, and they were caricatures, that they were very stereotypical. I wish the story was told from their perspective. I didn't care about her main character. The access she got at the crime scenes was strange to me. Just all of it, a lot of it didn't work for me. I honestly wouldn't recommend it. And then the next one is Biggest Surprise, and I really should buy a physical copy of this book because I loved it so much, and that is The Infinity Course by Kimi Don Bowman. And this surprised me in a few ways because Starfish by Bowman is one of my favorite books, but it is YA contemporary, and The Infinity Course is sci-fi, and it's just so different and unique from what she would normally write. And this book is set in almost like a purgatory heaven where somebody like Alexa has taken over this world and treating humans how they were treated in the human world, which sounds a bit ridiculous, but it just works. It's so fun. The last third of this book, my jaw was on the floor. I have never been so surprised by a book in years. It is excellent, excellent. I cannot wait to read more from this world. The next question is favorite new author, either new to you or a debut, so I decided to do both. My favorite debut novel of the year so far has been Honey Girl by Morgan Rogers. I say this all the time. I cannot believe that this is Morgan Rogers' debut because the writing in here is stellar. What really stands out for me was the writing. I could have quoted this entire book. It's really beautiful. I adored her main character, Grace, and her character development. The romance was really sweet. The podcast elements in here were beautiful. but really the writing is just gorgeous, and I cannot wait to read more from this author in the future. And then my favorite new to me author is Joan He, because The Descendant of the Crane is one I've had my eye on for a long time, but I know that Joan He was having some issues with their publisher, so I just never picked it up. And The Ones We're Meant to Find has been on my radar since long before it came out, so I was really excited to read it, and it really, really blew me away. It's everything that I love in sci-fi. Again, a really interesting, something happens in around the halfway point that really changes the way you think about this book. The first half is confusing, but that's so intentional. You just have to stick with it. Trust me, it's worth it. I cannot wait to read more from Joan He, and hopefully I'm gonna look it up to see if the problems with the publisher for The Descendants of the Crane have been cleared up, because I would really like to read more from her. Then we have newest fictional crush, and I don't get crushes on book characters. That's just not my nature unless it's Mr. Darcy. But I will say Sam in The Widow of Rose House by Diana Biller was the ultimate cinnamon roll. Like, he made this story. I don't think I would have loved this as much as I did if Sam wasn't in here. He is so respectable. He's got a wonderful family. I love how thoughtful he was and considerate, and he's just so adorable, and he makes this book worth reading. The next question is newest favorite characters, and I have many, but I settled on 2. And the first one is Nausicaa from A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth, and something about Nausicaa stands out to me. I loved all the characters in here, but she is so badass. She is she's a wall up, but that wall slowly comes down as you get through the book, and it's just fun to see. I love her connection with the other characters in here, and I liked getting her backstory about why she is the way that she is. And I think as the books go on, she's just going to become more and more vulnerable. We're going to get her to open up more. She's going to become a little bit sweeter, and I just really, really adore her a lot. And then the next one is Nina from Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I always like Taylor Jenkins Reid's characters. Nobody writes characters that feel so real quite like she does, and that was definitely true in Malibu Rising as well. But I didn't expect to connect to Nina as much as I did. She is the oldest sibling in this book, and I think you could call her the main character. And she's very selfless. She puts the needs of her siblings first. I can't really get into why because it would be spoilery, but she just is always making sacrifices. And I was really rooting her on and cheering her on, and I actually got emotional at one point, so loved her so much. The next question is books that made you cry, and I have 2 books as well. And of course, I always say it wouldn't be one of my videos if I didn't talk about Tiffany D. Jackson, but I read Monday Is Not Coming this year, and it's actually my favorite book of hers. I cried my eyes out. This book was devastating, and I just think I cried at multiple points throughout this, and you just kind of have to know going in that you're going to be emotional wreck by the end. And then I'm someone who also cries when good things happen to characters. I'm actually more likely to cry at like a sweet, really endearing moment. So a book that actually made me tear up is You Should See Me in a Crown. And I think there's something that happens near the end of it that is just so moving and touching and adorable that it made me tear up, just of happiness and sweetness, which happens to me quite a bit in books and movies and TV shows, and sometimes even commercials. Next is books that made you happy. I have 2. I have many because I used to be somebody who leaned more towards sad books, but I think I'm not alone with that. In the last year, I've needed some happier books in my life, so I have been gravitating more towards those. But one recently is Sweet Hand by N.G. Peltier. First of all, cover, stunning. I just like the chemistry in here. I love that our main character was a baker. I love any book set around a wedding. It's just really, this is the perfect book to sit down on the beach and read in a day because the characters are just so fun, the banter is amazing, and you're gonna love the chemistry. And then I said I'd have another Anna Marie Miclemore book in this video, and here it is, Miss Meteor. I actually have a vlog where I read this for Once Upon a Book Club, the book box, and I'm so glad that I got that box because I fell in love with this, and I don't know that I ever would have prioritized it if I didn't have that box. And I actually have a code for 10% off. It's Cravestown. I'll put that down below if you're interested, but this was so sweet. There's a bit of magical realism in here. Any book centered around a beauty pageant I'm gonna love. is going to be fun. Great representation, great conversation about friendship. I love that these two main characters grew apart and come back together again. I think that's an important subject to talk about and something a lot of teenagers go through. So yeah, beautiful book. Really, really made me happy. I had a huge smile on my face at the ending. The next question is the most beautiful book that you bought or received this year. And I have 4 because they're collection and they're stunning. They are these Thomas Nelson spring editions that they do every year, or every season rather. And these are the spring editions that I just got. And so this one is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Look at the detail on these books. And they only print 10,000 of these, and they're numbered. Let me show you. So I have the 1600th of printing of this, and the attention to detail in here. I'm going to show you the writing because I actually think if you want to read these classics, these would be a good additions to read because the writing is quite big. And there are quotes throughout here. It's just, these are so stunning. I'm going to show you them all. So that's The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This is The Secret Garden. Gorgeous. The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes. And then my personal favorite, Emma. Gorgeous. And I have the other seasons that have come out already, summer and winter, and I believe fall comes out later this year. And they're dark. This part, let's see how this is mint. On the fall ones, I believe it's black, which is so, so cool. This question is books you need to read by the end of the year, and there's so many obviously, but actually the Do the Thing-a-thon that Ashley from Frolic of Fiction hosted, I actually got through a couple that have been on my TBR for years. So that's amazing, and I hope she does that again. But one that I would really like to get to, because I've had it since before it came out. Penguin actually sent me this finished copy before the book came out, and I just never read it, which is such a shame. And that is The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern. I didn't love The Night Circus, but I did love her writing, and I do like whimsical, fantastical things, so I think there's potential that I could love this. And Libro FM sent me the audiobook too, so it's ridiculous that I haven't read it yet. And it's one of the prettiest books I own as well, so I would be thrilled if I finally got to this at some point this year. And then the final question is the best adaptation that you have watched this year, and I haven't watched many. I haven't watched Shadow and Bone. I liked the third To All the Boys I Loved Before movie, but I don't think it's my favorite. You know what my favorite is? Nomadland, which I haven't read the book, but I am curious about it. And Nomadland, obviously it's very popular. It won the Oscar. I believe the main actress won Best Actress at the Oscars as well. And it's really, I think they deserved it. It was really interesting. A lot of the side characters in the movie are actually the real people that were in the book. So I just thought it was really special and worth watching. So my camera's about to die, so I'm going to wrap this up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you also did this tag. I'd love to watch it or read it. And thank you again for your time. Bye for now.